Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final episode of the Chasing the Racing podcast in 2019. It is episode number 13 here on Monday, December 30th, 2019. For those who do not know who I am, my name is Kyle Young. I am here to talk racing with all of you here on the penultimate day of 2019. We are, at the time of this recording, just, quick math tells me, 27 hours and 53 minutes away from bringing in the new year. That's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy to think that everything that we have come to enjoy in 2019 is all about ready to come to a close. One book will close, another one will open. And it's going to open pretty quickly too, because 2020 is going to be starting off very fast and very heavy with racing action. This past week has probably been the most lackluster week that we've had since we've started doing this show. But it's going to pick up dramatically once we get rolling here with the month of January. I'm very much looking forward to getting into January. A lot of awesome things that are going to be starting up. Racing coming back to the forefront, being way more prominent than it has been throughout December. It should be a lot of fun. I hope that all of you guys had a great week. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope all of you had a fantastic Christmas, was able to spend it with great friends and family, and had a good holiday. I know I had a fantastic Christmas. I was spoiled way more than what I should have been. And hopefully you guys were too. So, glad to be here. Glad to get through the holiday. Well, through the tougher of the holidays. Tomorrow's easy. It's fun for people like me. It's profitable. So I'm looking forward to getting through tomorrow and starting off the new year very well. Today marks 1 year. Wow. Here we go with that whole non-speaking thing again. Today marks exactly 1 month since my last race as a race chaser. And I'm proud to say that drought will end in just 2 days. 2 days from now, my first race of 2020, the first day of 2020, the Hangover 2.0 at Utica Rome Speedway, 100-lap enduro. Super stoked. I was kind of hinting at it a little bit last week that there might be a possibility that your boy here will be getting behind the wheel of a car and slam banging with about 70 plus others. But unfortunately, I will be going only as a spectator. I tried to put the plans in place to get that situation in my favor, but the first step in order to do that was to get my truck back on the road. I do have a truck, only use it for a tow vehicle. It expired inspection in July, and I haven't had it taken care of yet. So I went to go get that dealt with on Thursday, and unfortunately it needs more work than what I was originally anticipating, which means that it's going to cost me more than I was originally anticipating. So my truck is not legal for the road. I did not go buy a race car, so I will not be racing in the Hangover 2.0 on New Year's Day. I also will not be racing in the Slush Crush 100 on Saturday, but I will be at both events. I'm very much looking forward to that, and I can't wait to come back here next week, our first show of the new year, and chit-chat about a little enduro racing. Kind of get into the start of the 2020 race plans. I'm only a month away from going down to Florida. This upcoming year will be my 4th consecutive year going to Florida for Daytona Speed Weeks and everything else that's going on down there. So I need to have a busy and profitable month. Have things that need to be accomplished. Obviously, I need to get down to Florida because that's a streak I'm not looking to break, and I can't get as much racing up here in New York as I can down there in February. So I'm looking forward. I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good mood about 2020. I can't wait to start it off and just start looking forward to more racing and new racing. And I know I'm not the only one out there, so it should be good. It should be very good. And we're starting a new decade too, so that's kind of a special little feeling to sprinkle in on top of a new year. So we don't really have a super ton of things to chit chat about tonight. Probably the smallest number of different topics to discuss with all of you, but we're still going to do it. We've had some racing going on, a little bit here in the States, a lot more action that's happening out in Australia right now. Of course, we have news to talk about, and we're going to prepare you guys for this week ahead, because there's actually a lot of racing coming up this first week of January that you can get yourselves involved with and find a way to enjoy it one way or another. So let's dive in. Let's get it rolling. First thing that I'd like to chit chat with you guys about today. So a very positive post, a very good start to our show tonight. 2 days ago, so that would be Saturday, we got another update about Justin Bonnet, who was the late model driver that sustained a pretty significant leg injury and burns while racing in the Snowflake 100 during Snowball Derby weekend. The post was made by Kristen Bonnet Ray. I don't know exactly who that is in relation to Justin, but just want to throw her name out there and give credit for her post where it is due. She provided us with an update Saturday morning, and it read this. Justin Bonnet is doing remarkably well since sustaining his injuries December 7th. His burns are healing nicely, with some already completely healed. We would like to thank Richard Childress and Todd Barrier for reaching out to us and referring us to an amazing guy, Mitch, that has created a prosthetic SIO2 biomatrix collagen to help Justin heal with minimal to zero scars. We cannot thank them or Mitch Dellinger enough for reaching out and offering his treatment. Justin had the stitches removed from most of the scars on his leg yesterday. Very few remain. The leg just has to heal, and it will take some time. He was able to enjoy Christmas at home with his family, and he will continue to rest and heal. Thank you for all of your thoughts and prayers. So some very awesome news to hear about Justin Bonnet. The recovery process is going extremely well. He was able to have a good holiday with his family, and everything sounds like it's going up. So that's great news to hear. I thought it would be a great way to start the show. Of course, everybody knows Justin's story by now. It's not a small hidden thing. It's a pretty big deal. It got a lot of attention. So to hear that he's doing well and continuing to make strides in the right step is very good. So just very, very happy to hear that. Hopefully he'll be completely healed soon, and we'll see him in a race car sooner rather than later in 2020. We didn't really have a lot of NASCAR news this week, which we usually don't during the holidays. Everybody kind of takes the holidays off, and it gets all quiet for this 2-week period, but we were able to find out some news about Tommy Joe Martins, one of the smaller competitors in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I am reading this from Kelly Crandall's Twitter. She tweeted out on Christmas Eve last week that Tommy Joe Martins will run the full Xfinity Series schedule in 2020 with Martins Motorsports in the number 44 Chevrolet. The team will utilize a combination of GMS and KBM chassis. Crew chief still to be announced. So Tommy Joe Martins is going to come back to the Xfinity Series in 2020. He's going to run it full-time, Martins Motorsports. Guessing that's his own team. And he's going to utilize a combination of GMS and KBM chassis. So hopefully that helps that team out. Tommy has been one of the smaller part-time teams that has raced over the last few years in the Xfinity Series. It hasn't really made too much noise, nothing super dominant, but he is a part of the series, and he's going to be again this upcoming year. He'll do it full-time. So good news for Tommy Joe Martins and the entire Martins Motorsports team. This next piece of information dealing with NASCAR drivers, but not necessarily NASCAR racing. As I said just a little while ago, there's been a lot of racing going on down in Australia this past week. And with that, we've had some NASCAR superstars go down there, as they usually do. Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson have been racing midgets over the past week out in Australia, and they unfortunately had some tough performances last week, shortly after Christmas. Both of them actually ended up getting upside down in races at Western Springs Speedway, and for Christopher Bell, it actually ended his week. So I'd like to show you what went down if you are not already familiar with what had happened to those two drivers. So hopefully everything is going to work properly once I try to switch this over. I moved my microphone into the middle of my screen, so I can't quite see the things that I need to. So here we go. This is the first issue. This is Christopher Bell's flip. I don't know exactly which one came first. Not that it really matters, I don't think. But you'll see that there's a lot of similarities with these two incidents.
That wasn't the replay. This is. Oh, just caught wide.
Same spot as last time.
Yeah, back into that
okay, yeah,
trying to
goes.
get around.
It was after.
And it's just flicking them into the wall.
What that means is
so yeah, you see the car gets a little upset, bounces into the outside wall, and away he goes.
Looking very pretty either. That's going to juggle everything.
Some of the aftermath here, just kind of
I can tell you now, Sunshine Tyler
sitting around holding his breath, or catching his breath.
Still holding his spot, and maybe Jeremy Webb, but it looks like Webb's gone off as well.
Yeah, and the race has been declared, so it'll be intriguing to see who we've got. Does that
pretty spectacular flip there for Christopher Bell. We'll rewind it here and show it to you one more time. Right here, gets upset, hits the wall, jumps into the air, and once it lands, away it goes, flips it over 3 or 4 times.
And it's just flicking
and lands on the driver's side
lost both NASCAR stars for the feature race
of the car.
Cars both not looking very pretty.
So there's Christopher's flip. Let's see. I think that was right here. All right, so we'll refresh this. Here's Kyle Larson's, and you'll see the similarities between the two.
Definitely been impressive for Team USA. And Larson,
boom!
Oh, it's a huge one from Kyle Larson. Big flip down the back straight. And that brand new car, it looks like Travis Mills has gone over as well. That brand new car from Harley Taylor not looking like how it should. That was huge.
Yeah, well, Larson was sticking to his mid-track position. That's where he felt the pace was for him. And then he went extra wide coming into turn number 2. And it caught him. It threw him out against the wall.
And there's
the other car that had rolled over in the incident. We all know the dangers of hitting the wall at any speedway track. Well, it certainly caught him out. So he probably thought he needed to go fractionally wider to try and keep the pace going. And try and catch.
And you can see as he climbs out of the car, he's shaken up a little bit by this flip.
Wonderful round of applause. Thank you very much. He's looking all right. He's got his hands in the air and he's happy. Yeah, we're good. Everyone's there. Okay, now he is feeling it a little bit, but that's good.
Here's a replay coming up on the screen now, so we're just going to check this out. We can cut off that and go to the replay.
There we go. No? Here it is.
There we go. That is huge.
And the video ends there, so we'll replay it back, get you a live shot once again. For that replay, it wasn't all the greatest. Hits the wall, and away he goes.
Down the back straight, and that brand new car looks
pretty
like
fast rolls, fast hard-hitting rolls, so you can understand why he got out and laid on the ground like he did.
Like how it should.
The guys that do this stuff, just a special kind of testicular fortitude, to say the least.
That's where he felt the pace was for him.
So, not a good start to the midget racing portion of their Christmas week. for both Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell. Because of Christopher Bell's crash, Kyle Larson ended up continuing on, at least for what I know. But Christopher Bell did not. We all know he's moving up into the Cup Series for 2020, taking over the 95 for Leavine Family Racing. They got a hold of the video footage, which not like it's was hidden from anybody, and they were not necessarily thrilled with what they saw. So they reached out to Christopher to get him to fly home, and he did. This is some more information about this. This is an article that was posted by velocitynews.co.nz. Saying that NASCAR driver Christopher Bell will not contest the remaining races in the United Truck Parts International Midget Series this season. Bell was involved in a crash during the Boxing Day meeting at Western Springs Speedway. Trying to qualify for the 30-lap feature race, Bell rolled his Toyota-powered King Midget on lap 8 of the B main. He managed to walk away unhurt. However, in the days following the crash, Bell was informed by his NASCAR management team not to race in the remaining 4 events. Next year, Bell will join the NASCAR Cup Series driving the number 95 Toyota Camry for Leavine Family Racing. With his focus firmly on the forthcoming season in the United States, there were some concerns another incident could stifle his preparations. Bell was scheduled to race next on December 28th at Bay Park Speedway, but will instead fly back to the United States. Speaking with velocitynews.co.nz, primary sponsor and car owner Brian Theobald of United Truck Parts said he's disappointed Bell won't race, but expects it won't be the last time he competes in New Zealand. Brian said, quote, "He's got a bright future, and they want to protect that. He's been asked to cease racing for the rest of the series and has had to return home and focus on 2020. Christopher is incredibly talented, and it's always a privilege to have someone of his caliber racing down here in New Zealand. Naturally, we're sad to see him go, but we've got no doubts he'll be back here to race in years to come. It's a shame, but when you see a crash like that, it's easy to understand why his team back in the USA would not want him to continue racing. I spoke to him last night, like he's gutted, mostly for the fans. Fortunately, he's already looking forward to returning back here at some stage in the future. It all comes down to getting the okay from his management," unquote. This year marked the 3rd season Bell has raced in New Zealand. He first debuted in 2013-14 and won the Boxing Day feature race that season. Last season, he returned and won the 50-lap season-ending feature race, which he won't be able to defend in the new year. Bell is a 3-time Chili Bowl winner and will look to defend his crown while going for his 4th win in January next year. So yeah, Leavine Family Racing not overly thrilled with what they saw with Christopher Bell's flip at Western Springs Speedway last week. You can understand why, but it's kind of disappointing to see that happen. Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson are phenomenal talents to watch race anytime they go dirt racing. It's obviously very, very understandable. Sprint car midget racing is probably the most dangerous form of dirt racing that there is, and with them being as young as they are, and with as long of a future in the sport that they have, car owners tend to get this way. There have been some comments recently. A lot of people are kind of speculating that maybe Kyle Larson is going to switch teams after 2020. His contract is up with Chip Ganassi Racing at the end of 2020. And he was asked, I think it was during the Champions Week banquet, Larson was asked about, already being asked about how he's going to tackle his contract ending. Some people kind of speculating and thinking that maybe he's going to be the replacement for Jimmy Johnson in 2021. And he was straight up and forward about it. He said that his dirt racing is going to have a major part in what he decides to do for 2021. He does not want to stop dirt racing, and I think he's made it pretty clear that he will not stop dirt racing. Chip Ganassi has been extremely generous with the support on the dirt. He's allowed Kyle to run a lot of races. Usually with drivers like this, they're not allowed to run races the day before they're supposed to be racing Cup races. Ganassi has allowed that to happen the last few years with the Knoxville Nationals. I think the Knoxville Nationals usually line up with the second Michigan race, so it isn't that ridiculous of a travel back and forth. But Chip has been extremely generous in allowing him to do that. I don't know if there are any other events that are kind of like that, racing one night and then Cup racing the next night. But I think he usually runs about 25 races or so on dirt every year. And a lot of that has to do with Chip. So if he can't find another ride with an owner that is going to allow him to continue to do things like this, and as long as Ganassi doesn't change his mind, maybe he stays at Chip Ganassi. Maybe he finds a move or makes a move and finds something better. Still a ton of time before we even have to really worry about that. But it's these situations that the NASCAR team owners get concerned about, is their investments in their business and in Cup getting hurt or even worse with the leisure hobby racing that these guys do away from NASCAR. So tough week for both Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, but everybody's okay, and there's nothing, at least for now, to dramatically worry about with the two of them moving forward. With all the racing that's been going on down in Australia and New Zealand, Larson and Bell are not the only two people that have made the trip down. Donnie Schatz has been racing down there, and I know Aaron Reutzel's been racing down there. And these two gentlemen that we're about to talk about right now, Brad Sweet and Carson Macedo, have also been down racing as well. This is an article that was posted by Speedsport.com talking about some of these successes that Brad Sweet and Carson Macedo have had down in the Australia and New Zealand regions. Starts off by saying Americans Brad Sweet and Carson Macedo doubled up their A-main successes Saturday at Valvoline Raceway during round 2 of Ultimate Sydney Speed Week. Sweet collected his second straight Ultimate Sprint Cars feature at the track, while Macedo collected his second straight Speed Cars Midget victory. Sweet backed up his Boxing Day night success with a nail-biting win in the 35-lap Sprint Car feature, narrowly defeating Jamie Veal and Macedo. It was Sweet's second win and Veal's second runner-up finish in as many rounds of Speed Week so far. Sweet came from the second row of the grid to win the Ultimate Sprint Car feature, but not before surviving a torrid battle with Veal for much of the race. Marcus Dumsney continue his consistency with a top 4 result. Robbie Farr came from the 5th row to finish 5th. Texan Aaron Reutzel was having a blazing run in the Sailor Motorsport XXX, and he pulled off a 360-degree spin in turn 2 whilst challenging for position in the top 3 after clipping a left rear with his right front, only to loop it again shortly after, resulting in a caution flag. Sent to the rear, Reutzel screamed back to 6th by the waving of the checker in a barnstorming run in the new car the team put together after the previous chassis was destroyed on Boxing Day. Grant Tunks placed 8th with Linton Jeffrey in 9th, and Ian Madsen barely scraping through for the transfer from the B main with a deflating right rear tire to run top 10 in the A main. Macedo backed up his speed car success on December 14th with a victory in the Ultimate Speedway Challenge round over Sam Walsh and Michael Stewart. He had won the sprint car feature as well. Had he won the sprint car feature as well, Macedo would have become the only person in the 42-year history of Valvoline Raceway to win twice in one night on 2 separate occasions. The speed car podium was filled by drivers doing double duty in speed cars and sprint cars, with Walsh making a fantastic drive to second in the Brett Morris-owned TRD-powered King chassis. Walsh and Macedo traded passes for much of the main as Stewart, Matt Jackson, and Nathan Smee and nephew Harley went at it. Troy Jenkins was in a top 4 proposition as well before a flat left rear tire on the swap and go number 78 ended his race prematurely. The modified sedan 15-lap twin A-mains went to Aiden Raymont and Max Clark. So there's a little bit of a rundown of some of the information, some of the racing results that have been going on over this past week. And the Americans mentioned. Brad Sweet, Carson Macedo, Aaron Reutzel, all those guys having a lot of success during this past week. And their trip down under going very well so far. So it's cool. It's always cool to see these guys do this during the December month. Over the last few months, We've seen, and I know that there are other guys, but the first one that comes to mind is Michael Pickens. Michael Pickens is a big sensation down there. He's been coming over to the United States over the last few months, running some races. Now everybody's doing the reverse. The Americans going down to Australia and New Zealand to run races during our winter months. So cool to see those guys having success, and it just goes to show how talented they really are. They're no joke. There's reasons why they are World Outlaws and All-Star Circuit of Champions. It speaks volumes for their talent. I'm sure the Australian and New Zealand race fans enjoy it, and obviously the drivers are enjoying it because they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't. Some late model action that is taking place down there. This is posted by the Late Model Racing Western Australia page. Let's see, get a little more information on what this event was. They posted it December this, so they posted it on Thursday afternoon. Obviously, it was the Late Model Racing Western Australia sanction. Perth Motorplex. Does it give a date? Was it Thursday? Was it Wednesday? I don't know. It doesn't exactly. Well, I guess it would be Wednesday. Well, why? See, the whole Australian thing, it was probably Thursday to them, but this was posted Thursday afternoon our time, so that is what I'm going to go with. But it's a post about their feature race, Kyle Blight picking up the win there. So let's read in a little bit. I mean, this is a pretty big article, so I probably won't get all of it, but we'll mention some of it here and fill you in on what happened. So Kyle Blight has tonight made it 2 feature wins in a row and got himself into the best possible form ahead of the Australian Championship as he defeated a full field of cars to claim his 6th Perth Motorplex feature win, 5th in a late model. Blight was solid in his heats, claiming a win in a 4th place to start the feature from position 5, while Ryan Halliday, I actually have a friend named Ryan Halliday, who scored a win in a 2nd place, would come from pole position. He was joined on the front row by Ken McPherson, a win in a 3rd place in the heats, while the 2nd row was filled by Warren Oldfield and Jay Carty. 24 cars would start the feature, but up the front the battle was between Halliday, Carty, and McPherson, Halliday leading the group. The first yellow light of the race came after just 2 laps, Simon McNabb coming to a stop in turn 4. On the restart, Carty grabbed the lead, while McPherson also racing his way into his 2nd as Halliday dropped to 3rd. Kyle Blight was on Halliday's tail and soon ducked underneath him to grab 3rd on lap 5. Behind the top 4 was a 5-car battle for 5th, but just as it was getting interesting, Halliday found himself spinning to a stop in turn 4 with 6 laps completed, the battling pack lucky to avoid him. The race resumed again, and this time Blight and Carty pulled away as they fought for the lead. Carty with the edge on Blight, while Joe Godsey made his way into 4th and began pressuring McPherson for 3rd. Freddie Kinsella, too, was making moves, grabbing 5th from Warden Oldfield. The yellows then came on again, this time for Lee Redmond, who spun in turn 4. Again, Carty and Blight fought for the lead as the race resumed, this time Blight getting the nose in front to lead lap 11 by just 18 thousandths of a second. Godsey also took his opportunity and grabbed 3rd from McPherson. McPherson fought back and retook the position on lap 13, but behind them was another pack of cars, including Kinsella, Brad Blake, Michael Holmes, and Warren Oldfield, looking for a way through also. Lap traffic would come into play on lap 19, Blight using the high line to negotiate his way around as Carty dropped back slightly, but still stayed in range and was ready to pounce at any given opportunity. Over the next few laps, the field began to spread out a little, but with 26 laps complete, Michael Holmes spun in turn 4, and despite his best attempts to keep the model going, the yellows had to come on. This set up a 4-lap restart with Blight leading away, Carty, McPherson, and Godsey. Warren Oldfield was the one who made the most of his opportunities, using the high line to rocket into the top 5. Back up front, though, it was all Blight going on to defeat Carty, while Joe Godsey made a last-lap pass to grab 3rd from McPherson. Impressively, 21 of the original 24 cars who started the feature finished the race. So, sounded like a pretty action-packed late model race there. You had some cautions to kind of mix in some of the drama, re-rack the field, and some pretty good racing up front. They ended up with, they ran 6 heat races, and as you heard, 24 cars ended up starting the feature. Let's see, 1, 2... They may have had, like, 60 cars? Because it looks like all of these heat races, all these heat races were 10 cars apiece. And some of them had either 1 DNF or 1 DNS. So they had about 60 cars show up for that event. So as mentioned, it was Kyle Blight that picked up the win. Jay Carty was second, Joe Godsey third, Ken McPherson fourth, Warren Oldfield fifth, Freddie Kinsella sixth, Veronica McCann seventh, Brad Blake in eighth, Jeff Roth ninth, and Jamie Oldfield, the top 10 finishers of that event. Also picking up an accolade on the night, Kyle Blight was the fastest lap setter, running a 17.797 during that 30-lap feature event. So congratulations to Kyle Blight. Sounded like it was a very good show. Stepping away a little bit from the dirt world and coming back to America, the Rumble in Fort Wayne event, the 22nd annual Rumble in Fort Wayne, took place this past weekend in the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum Expo in Fort Wayne, Indiana. This was a 2-day event that ran on Friday and Saturday of this past weekend. Let's see, scrolling through the results, you had National Midgets, Wing 600cc Outlaws, non-winged dirt 600cc's, and then semi-caged go-karts, junior cage go-karts, Clone 400 go-karts, Clone 360 go-karts, Clone 330 go-karts, Junior 3 go-karts, and kids karts. That's a lot of freaking go-karts. Quarter midgets that were divided down into Senior Honda, Junior Honda, Heavy 160, Heavy 120, Light 160, and Animal combined. So a ton of racing going on in Fort Wayne, Indiana this past weekend. Making the biggest mention out of this whole event was Tony Stewart. Stewart showed up to compete in this event and did himself a very good job the first night. He set the fastest time in qualifying. It doesn't... Okay, it was a little funky here. I was confused for a second. He set the fastest time in qualifying on Friday with a 7.723. In his heat race, he ended up finishing in third place. The top 2 transferred in the heats. They ran 4 heat races, 10 laps apiece, and then they had 3 B mains, a dash, and then the feature. So Stewart had to go to the B main after missing the transfer spot by 1. And let's see, B main results. Tony Stewart won his B main. That was also a 10-lap event. And in the feature, he was able to work his way up from the 9th place starting position. 50 laps was the distance, and he got the win. Cap Henry was second. Joe Ligori was third. Justin Peck fourth. Derek Bishak in fifth. Mike Federkak in sixth. Brian Knuckles seventh. Jimmy Anderson eighth. Kyle Hamilton ninth. And Corey Setzer rounding out the top 10. There were 14 cars that competed. Cap Henry led the first 34 laps, and then Tony Stewart took over the lead on lap 35, led the rest of the way, and picked up the win. With that performance, he also got the Hard Charger Award, moving up 8 positions. In the winged 600cc Outlaw feature event, they shortened it down to 23 laps due to time constraints, so that sounds like it possibly was a disaster of a race. Nate Franklin picked up the win from his 5th place starting spot. Drew Dorsett was 2nd, Jason Ormsby 3rd, Alex Adegate 4th, Rod Henning 5th, Mark Zumbrun was 6th, Ryan Ball 7th, Cody Tyler 8th, Bill Dunneman 9th, and Keith Owsley rounding out the top 10. They started 16 cars in their feature event. Lap leaders in that were Howard McCormick leading laps 1 through 7. Clay Sanders took over the lead on lap 8 and led until lap 20, where Nate Franklin took over and led the final 3 laps. In the non-wing Dirt 600cc feature event, they ran for 25 laps. They started 16 cars, and that one was won by Larry Joe Sroufe. Started in 4th place. Justin Harper finished in 2nd. Brian Buss was 3rd. Brent Buss was 4th. Jason Ormsby 5th. Tyler Lindsay 6th. Aiden Williamson 7th. Adam Walker in 8th. Dustin Engel 9th. And John Ivey rounding out the top 10. Lap leaders in that were Jason Ormsby leading the first 13 laps, and then Larry Joe Sroufe taking over on lap 14 and leading the way to the checkers. Hard charger was Aiden Williamson, who moved up 8 positions to finish in 7th. Started 15th, finished 7th, up 8 spots was the hard charger. I'm not going through go-kart results because honestly, I really just don't care. I really don't like go-karts. So we're just going to bypass over that, and we'll jump right into Saturday's results for the Rumble in Fort Wayne. Once again, Tony Stewart setting fast time for the night in the National Midgets. He actually ran faster this time around, running a 7.606. They had, I didn't say this for the last race, but it looks like they had... looks like they had 31 cars take time. Looks like there were 32 that possibly showed up. Same ordeal as the previous night. They ran 4 heat races, 10 laps apiece. Top 2 transferred. And then we have 3 B mains, top 10 laps apiece. Top 2 transferred there. They ran a dash that sets the first 2 rows. 4 laps, and then the feature event. Kind of a similar story to the first night for the midgets. Tony Stewart set fast time. He finished 3rd in his heat race, won the first B main, and ended up starting in 9th place and won the feature. So he did the exact same thing each of the 2 nights. Back-to-back. That's... winning back-to-back features, back-to-back nights, impressive enough, but to literally do the exact same thing both nights, kind of impressive. So your top 10 finishers in that 50-lap National Midget A feature. Tony Stewart picked up the win. Kyle Hamilton was 2nd. Justin Peck 3rd. Derek Bishak 4th. Travis Wellpott in 5th. Matt Westfall 6th. Billy Weiss 7th. Nick Hamilton 8th. Scott Hampton 9th. And Troy DeCare running out the top 10. They again started 14 cars. Your lap leaders, Kyle Hamilton led the first 28 laps, and then Justin Peck took over on lap 29. Sacrificed the lead to Kyle Hamilton on lap 35, and then Tony Stewart took over on lap 45 and led the remaining 6 laps to the checkered. And again, with the 8-position gain, Tony Stewart was the hard charger for that feature. Winged 600cc Outlaw feature for Saturday night. This one ended up being extended this time to 26 laps by a green white checkered finish, and it was won by John Ivey. Howard McCormick was 2nd, Nate Franklin 3rd, Cap Henry 4th, Dylan Woodling 5th, Bob Moraney in 6th, Clay Sanders 7th, Rod Henning 8th, Blake Lamb in 9th, and Bill Dunham rounding out the top 10. They started 16 cars in their feature. Lap leaders for that was Rod Henning leading the first 7. Cap Henry took over on lap 8 and led until lap 24. And then John Ivey led the final 2 laps to pick up the win. Dylan Woodling gained 10 spots from 15th for his 5th place finish. He was the hard charger. And then in the non-wing Dirt 600cc feature event for Saturday, they ran 25 laps, started 16 cars, and John Ivey was able to double up, and he picked up the win there as well. Larry Joe Sroufe was in second, Jason Ormsby third, Justin Harper fourth, Blaine Culpin fifth, Tyler Gunn sixth, Brian Buss seventh, Brent Buss eighth, Kelsey Ivey ninth, and Tyler Lindsay rounding out the top 10. Pretty boring list of leaders for the lap leaders here. John Ivey started on the pole. He led the whole race, led all 25 laps to take the victory. Tyler Gunn was the hard charger. He gained 6 positions from 12th to finish in 6th and picked up the award there. So some of your results there from the Rumble in Fort Wayne event happening in Fort Wayne, Indiana this past week. The 22nd annual event. Something that always happens this time of the year out in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Pretty cool little event that they do. And Tony Stewart making headlines, sweeping the night in the National Midgets. And lots of racing was done with those 2 600cc classes and then the laundry list of go-karts and quarter midgets as well. Speaking of quarter midgets, this is probably going to be one of the only times that we actually talk about anything go-kart or quarter midget related. POWRi is going to be creating their own quarter midget league. POWRi is known for a lot of dirt racing. They have a midgets series, they have sprint car series, they have a lot of other racing series, and they're going to add to it with a quarter midget league. This is coming directly from POWRi.com. POWRi is proud to announce the addition of another new league in 2020. In an effort to serve an ever-growing need within the quarter midget community, POWRi has created the POWRi Quarter Midget Racing League. POWRi League owner Kenny Brown commented, saying, quote, "We are very excited to grow our organization in a unique way. The direction we are heading with the quarter midget community is to allow them to run as a member-controlled organization, but with the support of POWRi Racing behind them. Our number one goal is to allow these young drivers to enjoy the sport of racing, time with their families, and make memories and friendships that will last a lifetime." Unquote. The addition of the POWRi Quarter Midget League into the POWRi Racing organization creates tremendous value to all parties involved. From the support and unification of POWRi to the ability to help transition drivers as they age out of quarter midgets into other leagues. Quarter midget racing is a perfect fit for POWRi's ladder of success. At the writing of this press release, POWRi has reached agreements with the following groups: American, Baylands, Capital, Good Times, I-70, Orange Show, and Tri-Valley. For more information on the POWRi Quarter Midget Racing League and all POWRi related leagues, visit online at www.POWRi.com, like POWRi QMR on Facebook, and follow at POWRi_racing on Twitter. If your quarter midget club has questions or interest in being sanctioned by POWRi, please call 314-267-4944. So there you have it. POWRi going to be starting up their own quarter midget racing league. Pretty cool for youngsters that are getting into the sport to be associated with such a successful sanction like POWRi. Again, as mentioned, sitting right here on their website, they've got a tab for midget racing, sprint car racing, micro racing, and lightning racing, whatever that is. So that's good news, I guess, if you're a youngster or a parent with a youngster and want to get them into racing. You can now do so directly with POWRi in their new quarter midget league. Let's see here. A couple more things to chit-chat about. I know we're flying through this tonight because we really have a very small number of stories. It's been a really quiet week. So if you guys got anything out there for our reviewer segment, start compiling your list. Because we'll have time for you for sure. Thompson Speedway announced Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, they announced this past week that they're going to be reducing all events and their purses for 2020. This is an article coming straight from Speed51.com, and it says, early Friday, race teams that compete in 5 NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series divisions at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park received word of the 2020 season schedule at the 5/8 Mile Oval in Connecticut. In the letter, Thompson Speedway CEO Jonathan Hoenig announced a reduction in both the number of race events and purse payout for all divisions. Thompson will run a schedule of 6 NASCAR-sanctioned events on the Oval in 2020, down from the 10-event 2019 season. The letter went on to give the track's reasoning for changes, along with additional items. Sure. Here is the full letter released to competitors and published on racedayct.com. So here we go. Really isn't all that bad, so we'll We'll read through it. It says, "Dear competitor, I hope you are having a nice holiday season. Thompson Speedway and my family have been dedicated to motorsports, especially oval track racing, for 80 years as of this coming May. Throughout the generations, we have endured many ups and downs, challenges and changes within the sport and the business. During the last decade, we have experienced the most dramatic decline in interest in the sport. This was largely triggered by the decline in the economy in 2008 and was matched by a decline in national interest in NASCAR. Unfortunately, this negative trend continues today. I am sure this is not a shock to any of you when you look at the fan counts in our grandstands during a NASCAR Weekly Series event or when turning on your television and seeing the absence of fans at most NASCAR Cup events. The business fundamentals and the interest in this category of motorsports is much different than they were 15 to 20 years ago. Low fan counts, increasing expenses, and continued losses on NWS events have put us in a position where we need to make some significant changes in order to continue the legacy of oval track racing at Thompson into the next generation. Our decision to invest in renovations in 2012 put us in a position to attract a new type of motorsport customer with a new business model that has allowed us to continue to offset the decline in the losses being incurred from the NWS shows. If it was not for this move, the NWS program would have ceased to exist years ago due to the mounting losses. Additionally, as you all are aware, the oval track surface needs an upgrade within the next few years. As of right now, revenues from NWS events simply do not justify this major expense. The track condition will eventually not allow for safe racing conditions, which will lead to the inevitable abandonment of portions of the track. We are dedicated to working hard to continue the legacy of oval racing at Thompson, but this will come some difficult changes. This will come with some difficult changes in the fundamentals and financial structure of how we manage the NWS events. In 2020, we are introducing a 6-event schedule, including the 3 major touring shows, and continuing our NASCAR sanction. These 6 NWS Series events will be running under a reduced purse structure, which you will see on the following page. In order to be able to continue hosting these events, we will need full support from you, our valued competitors. We are asking for a response and commitment to this new structure before January 15th, 2020. If we find that we are not getting the support and commitment in order to move forward with this new program, we will be forced to eliminate the NASCAR sanction and the NWS program entirely here at Thompson. This is a very difficult decision to make on our part, and we understand that this will also be a challenging change for most of you. Let us remind you that we are passionate about the sport and this business and are trying to do what is best to preserve the future of oval racing here at Thompson Speedway above everything. We look forward to your response and feedback in these decisions. Sincerely, Jonathan Honig, CEO at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park. So there's the letter that was sent out to the competitors. Thompson's 2020 oval schedule will open with Icebreaker Weekend, April 3rd through the 5th, with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour feature racing on a previously announced date of Sunday, April 5th. The next 3 oval events will all be Wednesday night dates for the NASCAR Whelen American Series divisions on June 3rd, July 8th, and August 5th. The NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour will headline the final Wednesday night event on August 19th. The final oval event of 2020 will be the World Series weekend, October 9th through the 11th, with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour season finale on Sunday, October 11th. Speed 51 will have more on this developing story in the days to come. So some unfortunate news there coming out of Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park. Obviously, it's understandable. Some markets in this racing world are struggling, and unfortunately, Thompson is one of them. Hopefully, while they are having to make this reduction, they will be able to benefit from it and continue on long into the future. But stories like this are just kind of part of the unfortunate world that we live in with racing, and is definitely not uncommon. So if you are in the area of Thompson Motorsports Park, I would highly suggest supporting them as much as you can, helping them out financially as best as you can. Get to the racetrack, support them while you're at the racetrack, buy merchandise, help them out, because obviously they are struggling, and the last thing that any of us want to see is another track shut down. So you'll have fewer chances in 2020, but if you're in the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park area, get your ass to the track. Final story that I've got for you guys before we switch things on over to the viewer segment for tonight, and that is about the NTT IndyCar Series. They're going to be making changes in 2020 to the push-to-pass system. This coming from Racer.com. The NTT IndyCar Series will make a key change to its push-to-pass system in an effort to disguise its use among teams. Racer has learned IndyCar will continue its practice of giving every driver a fixed amount of extra turbocharger boost worth approximately 40 horsepower to aid in passing or defending on road and street courses, but will remove the ability for teams to track its use in real time during the race. Although drivers do not have the capability of monitoring real-time push-to-pass information for nearby rivals, their race strategists have become adept to watching the push-to-pass data made available on the timing stand and using pit-to-car radio transmissions to alert their pilots when a driver they're pursuing or trying to hold off has activated the system. The new 2020 push-to-pass program will strip the live information from the data offered to its teams in favor of sending a single update at the end of each lap. If driver A uses 10 seconds of push-to-pass during the lap to eke out an advantage over driver B, the action will only be revealed when driver A crosses the finish line and his or her remaining allotment of push-to-pass decreases by 10 seconds. The same masking of push-to-pass activation will also keep the system's use private by drivers attempting to overtake with the extra 40 horsepower in hand. The change is meant to remove push-to-pass as a nullifying tool where drivers are alerted to its activation and asked to match the usage, thereby rendering the passing attempt through a temporary horsepower spike ineffective. So some interesting changes there to the push-to-pass system. I kind of like that, honestly. I'm not like diehard with IndyCar as I am other things, but I kind of like that. Not being able to see when your competitors are using it until after the lap has been scored kind of makes the racing a little more entertaining. As the little example there kind of played out, if driver A hits the push-to-pass and the team for driver B can find that out, then they're going to tell them, and driver B is going to use push-to-pass to try to keep up, and vice versa. So by not knowing until the end of the lap, you don't really know when those drivers around you are using push-to-pass, so you don't have an immediate opportunity to either keep up or defend those positions. So I like that. That should be a pretty cool little addition to help make the racing better and have a more entertaining product for the fans moving forward. So surprisingly, we're underneath the 1 hour mark, and with as slow of a week as we have had, that's all that I've got for you guys for right now, other than this cool little idea that I put together for the start of the viewer segment. So if there's anybody out there that would like to present something that we did not talk about on the show already, if you have any questions for me, any weekend plans that you guys have for your racing world, anything like that, anything that you want to mention, you want to bring to the show, now is your time to do so. While you are doing that, I'm going to bring up a little question that was posted in our Facebook group yesterday to generate some conversation for this segment of the show. We did this last week, had small participation, did it again this week, and had a lot more participation, so this will work out very well. Yesterday I posted in the group asking people what are some of the things that they are most looking forward to for 2020. Does not have to be related to strictly races that you are attending. It can be anything in the racing world whatsoever that you are looking forward to in 2020. I will read off the responses here from our Facebook group if you are watching live and did not participate in Facebook and would like to participate now. Feel free to do so, and I will include you as well. So for me, I ended up putting 5 things down that I'm very much looking forward to in 2020. In no particular order. I just posted them as they came to my mind. Number 1, the new track order for the NASCAR Cup Series. While we don't have any new tracks coming in the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series schedule, we do have a wide variety of changes to the 2020 schedule that I'm very much looking forward to. We're going to race Martinsville under the lights for the first time in May, the doubleheader weekend in Pocono at the end of June. Daytona is going to be the regular season finale. You will have Bristol, Martinsville, and I think the Roval still as your cutoff races for the playoffs in 2020, and a slew of other changes as well. Those are just some of them. The West Coast swing is going to happen immediately after Daytona, and then they're going to go to Atlanta after that. The way that things are working out with the Olympics is that there will be a 2-week break in the middle of the season, and because of Pocono's doubleheader, the season is actually going to end a weekend earlier than it usually does. Season finale will be at ISM Raceway instead of Homestead Miami Speedway. Homestead Miami Speedway is going to be moving towards the end of March. So a lot of really awesome changes that I'm looking forward to on that front. Number 2, finding out who will be the next big successes in the NASCAR Xfinity Series with Christopher Bell, Cole Custer, and Tyler Reddick moving up. Those 3 drivers dominated the Xfinity Series this year. Obviously, they didn't win all the races. They just won most of them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing who's going to fill those shoes and be the next big names. Is it going to be an Austin Cindric, a Chase Briscoe? Will Justin Allgaier find more success than he has? Could possibly Michael Annett becomes a superstar finally and win more than just one race a year? I think there's a lot to look forward to in the Xfinity Series, and that should be a really fun series to watch in 2020. Number 3, I put down racing more myself than I did this year. I had a lot of plans to race significantly throughout 2019, and I unfortunately didn't do that. I lost 2 major sources of income throughout the summer this year, which for me is a huge time of the year. I'm going to a lot of races, trying to do a lot of things and enjoying myself. So to lose that income hurt me a lot and prevented me from doing the racing that I was hoping to do this year. The goal for 2020 is going to be to do more than what I did this year. So obviously I have a lot of progress to do to make that happen. But all of my issues from the past have been resolved, and the only thing standing in between me and racing more is my own ambition to go make money. So I'm really looking forward to that and hope that I can live up to that expectation. Number 4, hitting the 100 tracks mark as a race chaser. In my time of race chasing, I've taken my race chasing to a new level over the last few years. And in doing that, I have seen races at a total of 89 different racing venues, whether it be a purpose-built track, a temporary track, an indoor event, anything like that. I've seen races at 89 different racetracks. The goal for 2020 is I want to get that to 100. So I need to go to 11 new to me racing venues to hit 100, and I'm hoping to do that in 2020. And the 5th and final thing that I said, adding even more firsts to my already insane list of race events and racetracks. I continue to try to add things and do things that I haven't done in the past. Some things that come off the top of my head. I'm hoping to get out to Indiana this upcoming summer, to take in my very first Indiana Sprint Week with USAC. I have it on the schedule right now. It could change. It may possibly not. But I would like to get down to Charlotte a weekend earlier than what I have been these last few years and attend my first World Short Track Championship. I know I'll be trying to go to East Bay Raceway Park in February while I'm down in Florida for the first time and check out some racing there. I'm just trying to think of some of the things off the top of my head. I threw down going to Talladega for the first time. I want to try to make that happen this year. That would be great to go to Talladega. It's on the top of my NASCAR bucket list, so I would love to make that happen. I'm going to try to go to my first NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour event this upcoming year. Things like that. Just adding new things that I haven't ever done before. Going to more USAC Pennsylvania Midget Week races than I ever have before. The Watkins Glen weekend has been pushed back by, I think, like 2 weeks, and that usually happens during Pennsylvania Midget Week. Now that is not happening, I can attend more Pennsylvania Midget Week races. So that is a goal of mine as well. So those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to in 2020. Some of the responses that we got here on Facebook from our viewers. The first one came from Noah Cavern, who is in chat as Wildchild R19. He said, "For me, it's going to be the raises in purse for this year's Prairie Dirt Classic at Fairbury. The Mars Late Model Tour being under new ownership of Tony Izzo Jr., and who all decides to run a full-time MLRA schedule. Going to be a fun year in the Midwest for dirt late models." He makes a good point there. The Prairie Dirt Classic that happens at Fairbury Speedway at the end. Well, this year it's the end of July, the last day of July, and the first day in August. They're raising the purse of that event, so that should only help bring even more competitors into. Oh my gosh, into that facility than ever before. New ownership of a racing series with the Mars Late Model Tour. That can always be an exciting time. You get a new owner in there, maybe they're going to do and try things that other people haven't before to benefit the series. And he says looking for see who decides to run full-time with the MLRA. Dirt late model racing is pretty popular out in that part of the country where he's from. So there's definitely a lot to be excited for on that front. Robert Tarbox Jr. commented. He is in my neck of the woods in the racing world. He says, "I'm looking forward to another racing season. Sorry I don't have much. If I had to think of something, it would be seeing if Matt Williamson can keep that hot streak going and give Shepard another run for the title." I would agree with that. Matt Williamson came on extremely strong this year. His first year racing with the Buzz Chew racing team. Won a lot of big events. Won his first Super Dirt Car Series championship, his first Super Dirt Week. He picked up the Centennial 100, or the Centennial Weekend $100,000 event at Orange County Fair Speedway. It was definitely a career year for Matt Williamson, and it will be fun to see if he can continue to keep pace with Matt Shepard. We know Matt Shepard is going to be a beast. He's always a beast. He's always going to be a beast. But year after year, we've kind of seen the contenders to take down Shepard change. This past year it was Matt Williamson. We'll see if he can continue to perform at that level, or if somebody else will take that position over. Evan Melanson commented as well. He said Alonso at the Dakar, maybe another Indy 500 attempt from him as well. Looking forward to the new NASCAR schedule like yourself, in referring to me. Most notably the Pocono doubleheader and the Martinsville night race. I want to see if Newgarden can become a 3-time. My boy Ricky Weiss making Canada and especially Manitoba proud in the World of Outlaws for another season. Also the final year of the Gen 6. So freaking pumped for the 2021 car. So Evan mentions a lot of stuff here. Alonso running the Dakar and possibly another Indy 500. Fernando Alonso has done a lot since leaving Formula One and continuing to add to that for 2020. New NASCAR schedule, he says the Pocono doubleheader and Martinsville night race. I've already kind of mentioned those things, so I do agree. Seeing if Joseph Newgarden can become a 3-time IndyCar Series champion. Newgarden has been phenomenal as of late in IndyCar. He's racing with a great team. He's a great driver, so I would absolutely expect him to be a contender to win a 3rd championship. He talks about Ricky Weiss, the 2019 World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series Rookie of the Year. I think he finished 3rd in points this year. They will be getting their season started up in just a couple days. So that rookie, well, you can't defend Rookie of the Year, but that 3rd place points defense will start soon. Ricky, I think he's got a lot going for him. This upcoming season. He has a great sponsorship deal with Dryden, continues to have a lot of support behind him, and now that he has a year under his belt with the World of Outlaws, it should only allow him to become better with the tour against the competitors that he has to face, and representing, as Evan said, Manitoba, Canada, very well. And then the final year for the Gen 6. This is going to be the last year in NASCAR for the Gen 6 car before they move over to the next gen car in 2021. There have been rumblings that NASCAR is going to go against their word, and they are actually going to make changes to the car for the 2020 season where they originally weren't going to. It sounds like they could possibly be making changes to the short track and road course package, kind of make that more like what we saw in 2018. Leave the mile and a half program the way it was for 2019, but revert back to what the short tracks and road courses ran to make those races a little better than what they were this year. And we will continue to learn more about the next-gen car as 2020 progresses. There's going to be more testing, more changes, more announcements, more information. This is going to be a big year for that new car to figure out what we're going to get in 2021. And then the final response that we got was from my good friend in Florida, Wes Hogue. He says that he is also excited for the next-gen car, going to Daytona for the regular season finale, and another year closer to Hailie Deegan turning 18. I had to spoil the party for him. Hailie Deegan has already turned 18. But yeah, we just talked about the next-gen car and Daytona being the regular season finale for NASCAR. That's going to be huge. And every now and then I hear some people say that they think that there should be like a wild card for the NASCAR playoffs, just like how there are wild cards for other playoffs. If you're going to get a wild card in the NASCAR playoff system, this is about as close as you are going to get. Having a super speedway for the regular season finale is about as wild card as I can get, as I can think of. You have all of those drivers who, like those smaller teams, and I'm not making fun of anybody, but like your Front Row Motorsports teams, Premium Motorsports, Roush, Fenway Racing, they haven't really been all that stellar. Well, they haven't been able to win anything but super speedway races over the last couple of years. Richard Childress Racing. Some of the teams that you don't see win as much that put full-time drivers in the series, that's their opportunity. If they can't make anything happen the first 25 races, they go to Daytona at the end of August. This is their shot. Their one last chance. They know they can win. The question is, will they win or not? So I think that's going to be great. Of course, some people are concerned, like, well, that time of the year for Florida, it's hurricane season. I get it. You're right. We've dealt with weather in all of our lives in NASCAR. If it happens, we'll work around it. If not, we'll be fine. We'll deal with it when it happens. But I think that regular season finale at being at Daytona is going to be freaking nuts. I don't think you should ever have a super speedway race as a championship deciding race. I love my super speedways, but there's just too much unpredictability to determine a champion in the series. And there's really not enough super speedway racing in order for it to be important enough to be the championship event. I think what we've done over the last few years and what we're going to do this upcoming year works out fine. The super speedways are an important part of the racing. The road courses are important. The short tracks are important. But when you compare them to the entire schedule as a whole, they're not the stake of the season. They're the side dish, the mashed potatoes, the corn. They have an important role, but they shouldn't have a ginormous role like that. So that should be very fun as well. I know some people aren't as happy that leaving Daytona for Independence Weekend, taking that to Indianapolis, but I really don't see much of an issue with it. It should really be a lot of fun. So that's all that we had for that post. Looks like you guys are a little quiet on the live segment tonight. So I guess with that, that's where we're going to get ready to wrap things up. We've got a big week ahead in the racing world. We're finally going to get some awesome racing to talk about, and we'll have a lot of things to mention on next week's show. I told you at the beginning of the show, I've got some race chasing to do to start off my 2020 year. I've got 3 races that I'm going to attend this week. Wednesday on New Year's Day, I will be going to Utica Rome Speedway for the Hangover 2.0. That is a 100-lap enduro race. It was an event that used to happen at the Ransomville Speedway in Ransomville, New York. They are now moving that to Utica Rome, bringing it back, and there has been a tremendous outpouring support for that event. There are currently 75 cars that are pre-registered for it. That race is going to be awesome. So if you're anywhere in New York State, you know you have nothing to do, go to Utica Rome Speedway. for that event. It's going to be great. Friday, I think as long as I can afford it, I'm going to make the trip down to Allentown, Pennsylvania for the first day of the Allentown indoor race. Indoor racing season is upon us in the Northeast. That is going to kick off. I'm not going to be there for both days, but I am going to be there as long as I can afford it for Friday. And then I'm going to drive back up here home. And on Saturday, I'll be attending the second annual Slush Crush 100 at the Adirondack International Speedway. That is also a 100-lap enduro race. I competed in that race last year. I had a blast. It was a very successful event, and I'm looking forward to get back there to watch it. They've got a raffle car where they're going to raffle a car away, and whoever wins a raffle gets to run the race. So I'm going to try to enter the raffle, and maybe I will be able to come back with a racing story of my own for next weekend. For next week's show. So we'll see how that goes. Other things that are going on this weekend, we have the World of Outlaws Morton World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series season opener this upcoming week at Vado Speedway Park. That will be happening January 2nd through the 5th, I believe. 2nd through... Alright, now I just want to make sure. I don't know if it's the 5th or the 3rd. Let's look it up real quick. Vado Speedway Park is actually a new racetrack in the world. I think it's in New Mexico. Yes, that is correct. Vado Speedway Park, January 2nd through the 5th. So that will be this upcoming Thursday through Sunday. The first 4 events for the World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series in Vado, New Mexico, to kick off their season. New racetrack, new event. They usually don't start this early. They usually start at the Dirt Car Nationals. If you can't be there, the races will be broadcasted on Dirt Vision. So check out Dirt Vision if you're looking to watch that event. And then we've also got the start of Monster Energy Supercross. It is time for the two-wheeled racing season to come back. Monster Energy Supercross kicking off this week. I believe they are starting that in Anaheim like they usually do. Let me just pull this up just to be sure. That is correct. Angel Stadium of Anaheim in Anaheim, California on Saturday, January 4th. That is televised on NBC Sports. Let's see if this will tell me anything about TV-wise. Doesn't really look like it. But it's going to be late for us here on the East Coast. Heat racing starts at 7:05 p.m. Pacific time. So that means that that's going to start at 10 o'clock Eastern. So late night Saturday night Supercross to kick off the 2020 season. So yeah, lots of stuff to look forward to this week. I'm looking forward to coming back here next week and talking about all of it with you guys. It should be a lot of fun. So that's where we'll wrap things up. As always, if you are not already connected to... Whoops, helps if I spell the command right. If you are not already connected to us on YouTube and Facebook and you're watching live, you have those links down below. If you're watching on YouTube, those are in the description for you. YouTube, we upload all of our shows to YouTube, so whether you missed an entire show or if you missed bits and pieces of a show, you can go to our YouTube channel to check that stuff out and get yourself caught up. We upload these shows every single week, so just make sure you check them out if you can't be here live. And then our Facebook group. Facebook group is where we talk about everything racing. A lot of the stuff that we talk about in that group ends up getting talked about on this show. You can leave your feedback on the show. Anything that gets you involved is what that Facebook group is for. So get yourself in the Facebook group, interact, talk with all of us, and we can all enjoy this sport that we all love so much together. And as always, guys, continue to spread this around. Continue to help us grow. It's a tough time right now with a lot of things being off, so it's difficult to talk about things and engaging many people to try to talk about them with us. I'm going to start opening up and thinking about ways, maybe some things that we can change on the show to try to help bring in more traffic and get more people involved. Great way for you to get involved with with the Facebook page as well, because we'll do it on there. So join the Facebook, give me your feedback, and just continue to share out to the masses and help us grow this the best way that you can. So thank you again for all of you that watched here live. Thank you for those that are watching on YouTube. Have a safe, a fun, and a healthy new year. Don't do something stupid. Make sure you survive the night and you can be around here for 2020. It's going to be a great year. I thank all of you guys for all the support over these first few months, starting the show off in 2019. We've had a decent start. I'm hoping to continue to make this bigger and better as we move forward, and a lot of good things to look forward to in 2020. And we'll see you there. We will see you next year. We'll see you next decade. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you for your time. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. There is racing to enjoy. Go enjoy some racing this week. There's plenty of it to enjoy. You have no excuses. If you miss out on racing, it's your fault, because there's a lot of it to be done this week. Thank you guys again. We'll see you next week here for another edition of the Chasing the Racing podcast, the first of 2020, the first of the new decade. Take care, guys. We'll see you then.